All right, we are now recording. So, welcome everyone. We are here to discuss the Analytics and Insights May release. We're going to review all of the updates to it and point out some that you are going to be very pleased with to help you with our summer interventions. I will say that we'll be a point in time where I will jump into a sandbox server. Just remember this sandbox server is a training server, should be used for training purposes only. It has no real students or data in there, so any likeness to any real person is purely coincidental. So we don't share information that we should not be sharing. So over the weekend, we did have the release for, it's technically the April release, but it was delayed coming to us because of some issues that they thought they had worked out before the release. So first and foremost, we do want to apologize for the performance issues that we are seeing with this, and I will tell you that PowerSchool is working very diligently on getting those corrected. But let's go through and see what new things you should be seeing. So we'll go through each part. We'll take a look at what's updated in the dashboards, what has updated in student interventions, and what has updated in the plans. I do have the chat up and running so that if you have any questions, feel free to throw your questions into chat and we'll answer them along the way. So we will get started. So first, let's take a look at what has changed in dashboards. And there's not a lot of new functionality in the dashboards, but there's been some cosmetic changes to it. One of the changes has to do with them updating the marks and what you see at the bottom of the page for some of the what grades or students are receiving in their core courses. Because the graph had the values over here from A going from right to left, A to F, the indicator down here in the legend was backwards on all the graphs, and so they went through and made that update so that these would sort and be in the legend in the same order that they're displayed in the graphs. So something that not many people noticed, but a few people did, and it does make sense to make the two align. So that is a cosmetic change that you will see on those dashboards for student analytics, performance indicators, and student analytics, academics, achievement, what grades are students receiving in their core courses. A bug fix that was discovered that they did fix was with the biggest update that we had last year, they introduced these new indicators to let you know if your rates were trending upward or downward based on last year or same amount of time for last year so that you could do comparisons. And they found a bug in the chronic absenteeism rate on the overall performance indicator overview page where it would sometimes point it in the wrong direction. That has now been corrected. So if any of y'all ever noticed that that arrow was pointed incorrectly, if you actually went down, which was a good thing for chronic absenteeism, it is now corrected and will point in the correct area. Also, there was an issue where in the chronic absenteeism metrics that it was calculating, it would sometimes include your inactive students, and it should not be doing that. So that has been corrected for everybody but us yet. This is still an issue for us, and I have reported it to them. So they are working on that fix along with this other stuff that they are fixing. So just note if you see any inactive students, those will be coming off of the chronic absenteeism metrics as it displays in here. Now, I will say this, I get a lot of questions about this metrics right here going, well, I'm showing these kids here, are they counting on our state report card? So remember, this is not an indicator of the state report card. It's going to show all of the kids that are in your district and whether they are chronic or not so that you can deal with that with the families in the way that you need to. We are going to show you the pre-K kids. We are going to show you the non-traditional kids that will not necessarily be counted on your state report card. So don't think that that is an alarm bell that needs to go off to go, oh no, my report card's not going to be right because I see these kids in here. It doesn't work like that. So just keep those two things separate. Another update that was fixed, and I know this drove quite a few people crazy because I even complained about it a time or two, but they have now updated the sort order of the columns in the students' profiles to behavior detail dashboard. So when you would go to a student record and you would go to their behavior details, when you scroll down to look at the offense history and the action history, it always showed the oldest records first. Well, we imported when we moved from iNow over into PowerSchool, we migrated records over. So some kids had lots of discipline records back many years, and it was always a pain that you had to either scroll all the way down to the bottom to find where we were for 2025, or you could click up here by the date name and it would resort them. We kept saying we need to see the most current on top. So they took the advice and finally redid that sort order. So now when you look at this, the behavior, you're going to see the most current date up at the top. Also to note, they did the same sort order update for the columns in the student profile, schedule, and student detailed view. So they're trying to get all these flipped around. If it was showing it in the oldest order first, to get it flipped around so that you would see the most current entry first. So cosmetic, but definitely helping some pain points. A new feature, they updated the enrollment overview dashboard programs filter to allow you to do a multi-select. Now, some districts take advantage of the programs over in SIS that feed into here, and some don't. A lot of people don't have any data at all when they go into this enrollment dashboard and they look at enrollment into programs. And that's perfectly fine. It is a local choice at the school level, whether you want to create programs in that program piece over in SIS to monitor students to your own liking. If, however, you are a district, because there are some districts who have very heavily loved that programs feature because they can put start and end dates of monitoring when students have entered. I mean, some people use it for just a second checks and balances for SPED, for gifted. Some use it for people who are in athletics or people who are in extracurricular activities or going to alternative school. Lots of different reasons you can use that program feature over there. But if you have created it, you now can filter the data across multiple programs instead of just one, because it used to be that you could only look at one at a time if you wanted to filter it. Another issue that was corrected. I don't have a screenshot for this because really nothing to grab, but they corrected an issue where some teachers with courses at multiple schools would see older sections of courses that they shouldn't be seeing, and so that bug has been fixed. Also, they upgraded so that you know that on all of our metrics we have those export options where you can export to PDFs, you can export to Excel files. They have upgraded to a newer version of Excel for exporting those files, so you're going to see it in a newer format for Excel users. And that's basically all the updates that there are to the analytics dashboards. Couple of bugs, couple of cosmetic things. Let's go on to the next. Updates to student groups. Now, when I sent the invite out to this presentation, I went ahead and linked, and I also have it linked here, the YouTube video for this, because we know right now some of you are hot and heavy building student groups, working on your summer interventions, whether it be your kids in the 6 through 12 that you're putting in the interventions for your summer programs for credit recovery and things such as that, or the groups that you might be building to go in the K3 and 4 or 5 summer reading and math interventions. I wanted you to go ahead and have that video, but they have changed the workflow slightly on how you build student groups in the program. So what has changed? We all know how you can grab students through any list inside of here that you want to, and there is that option in the drop down functions to create a new group. Well, once you get to that, create a new group, you don't see the button anymore that has add a new group. You just see a pre-populated list of any groups that you have already defined, which makes it seem like you can't add a new group, but you actually can. All you have to do to create a new group is actually start typing the group name up here. So it's a little misleading because it's a drop down and it says please select a group. There's nothing that really tells you, hey, you can type in a new one and it will self create it for you, until you start typing and it will pop down here, add a new group to my user groups. So that workflow is slightly different. We did film that video, so we have it in YouTube for you, but you have the steps here as well if you want to make sure you disseminate that out to your users, because your teachers are probably building groups, your interventionists are building groups, curriculum coordinators could be building groups, everybody could be building groups. So make sure that they have that new workflow. Now let's get to the good stuff. What have they updated inside of the interventions piece, and what have they updated inside of the student plans piece? So we're going to start with interventions because that's where we're hot and heavy getting ready for summer. So the first thing they did is a very minor feature enhancement, but they have now given student avatars in intervention listings. So when you used to log in and you would see your all interventions, you now have these little bubbles over here, which are the initials of the students. I've heard that they are going to eventually get it where you can upload photos in here so that you can see pictures of the kids with them inside of here. So I do know that that will eventually be coming, but the first step is to start it off with just this little avatar that has the initials inside of there. You're also going to see an in count of your students. So if an intervention has more than 2 students, because it will by default display up to 2 avatars, it will list those 2 and then do a plus n number to how many other students beyond those 2 there are. So by me having these 2 bubbles here and the plus 1 tells me this intervention has 3 kids enrolled in it. Having the 12 right here tells me I have a total of 14 students enrolled right here. And if I only have one, I'm just going to see that one bubble and no N count over here to the side. If there are no students linked whatsoever inside of here, it will display a 0 to let you know you have no students enrolled inside of that intervention. So feature but cosmetic, and will be even better once we can put the photographs inside of there. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. Of all the things I'm going to show you today, there are 2 things I'm like over the moon excited about, and this is one of them. They have introduced a new feature as a part of the attendance part of interventions. So, how many of you on here had to help facilitate your summer camps last year and had to do like bulk attendance entry? Raise your hand, throw in comment me if it was you, because I'm talking to you. If you know that you were part of those who had to do that, ears perked. So some of the pain points that we had. What happened when you tried to bulk enter attendance, but you had a kid inside of there who had withdrawn? You couldn't do it, right? Like I've had people trying to figure out how can I get around, because we know for this summer, you've got to put everybody in these interventions that you invited. Everybody you invite, even if you already know mama has said, I ain't coming, I don't care. You still have to put them in here because there's going to be a specific withdrawal code you're going to use to say they refuse to attend. That way we can still capture how many you invited to camp as part of that legislative reporting. But a lot of people are like, Stacy, we don't want to do that because then we lose our bulk attendance option. Well, guys, not anymore. This fixes that issue and adds even more functionality to taking attendance. So here's the description of it. You got it in writing, but I'm fixing to show it to you. So everybody is used to seeing this little attendance rainbow that builds out that percentage of who's absent, who's present, and who you've not marked. Everybody understands where this is on that intervention page when you are monitoring and putting in data. Well, there's a new link down at the bottom of that little widget in there that says review details. When you click that review details, it is going to pop out a chart. This chart is going to allow us to do 2 things. It is going to allow us to filter, and it's going to allow us to be able to do entries for even more than 1 day. So in the past, when you've gone to mark attendance, you only could do it for 1 day at a time, and you would have to change the date, go to the next page, bulk attendance, go to the next date, bulk attendance. You now can do it for up to a week at a time for a class at a time. So I'm actually going to take a timeout here from my slideshow and jump over into my dashboard because I want to show you this. So let me jump into the MTSS interventions. Remember, this is sandbox data, fake kids, fake students, everything. So I've got all these different camps going right here, and I hope I pick the right one. There was one of these, I think it's this, and that had some kids that had withdrawn. Oh, nope, that's an active one. There's one. See, I had this before. Let's just click in one and see if I've got one. So I'm going to go into the all interventions. So when I go into all interventions, there's that new little area right here below the dashboard that says review details. So if I click into the review details, well, I've got all enrolled kids right here. So let's pretend that I had some that said enrolled and some that said withdrawn or some that said completed. All you would have to do to be able to take advantage of the bulk is to change, and you've now got this filter status and say, just show me the kids who are enrolled. So that when you go to take attendance, you can then grab all those kids, and that set attendance will say, all right, for what days, what students are you wanting to mark? Present, tardy, I've got all these 8 kids. What do I want to do and what do I want to put as the time? So I'm going to say, yep, they were all present for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it is. Hit those dates. Always got them here. And then save that selection. What week am I in? May 11th. So 12, 13, 14, 15. So whatever dates I have that I've built that calendar out for, I would click them, hit save, and then apparently it sees some data for someone. Do you want to overwrite that data? Absolutely, I do, because I'm marking everybody absent. And now you have marked them for a whole week. So that does allow you to mark it a little bit more efficiently on your kids. Now you can still do it the other way if you want to. I also want you to know that you can come up here and do, if you just wanted to do time, you could, but you can do them both at the same time. There is this toggle up here that will allow you to do that. So that is a new feature that I think is a well received enhancement, and I really wish I could remember which one of these. Maybe this one. Had some withdrawn kids, because I really wanted to show you that. Maybe, oh, it's this one. Yep, here we go. So see, if I have the withdrawn kids right here, this is what used to happen to y'all. If you selected these kids, what's it say right here? Cannot set data for completed withdrawn students. That's what y'all been seeing in the past years. So all you do is you come up here to the status and say, well, I don't want to see those kids. I just want to see the enrolled kids. And just like magic, you now get that button for y'all. So hopefully that is huge and helps in how y'all can do that attendance and math. So like I said, of all the updates, this one little thing right here made all the frustration worth it to get to this point right here. So hang in there, because we're still going to keep updating other things. All right, let's jump back into the slideshow. All right, another enhancement that I think is pretty neat, but some of you might be caught in a gray line area. So interventions now have an auto completion feature. So how many of you remember at the end of summer last year, ARI and OMI did a lot of reaching out to districts going, hey guys, y'all forgot to close the interventions out once they were over. You've got to close them out so we can get all the data for the legislative reporting. Anybody get those phone calls? Okay, because sometimes that happens. Well, starting now, so remember, this update was installed this weekend. Any intervention that you create from Monday on, since the install of this, so this does not apply to any intervention y'all created last week or the week before. So if y'all got really Johnny on the spot and did your interventions already, this will not apply to them. But if you have not set up your summer interventions in here yet to start putting kids in there for summer, if you do it now, then your interventions, if you don't go in and complete them, which you are still advised to do, we still want you to be the one to do it. But if you don't, the interventions will auto-complete 30 days after the end date of the intervention. So let's say you created a 4th grade math intervention, and it's running June 1st through June 20th. I'm just making up dates here, y'all. And y'all went in and you forgot, and you completed everybody, but you forgot 3 kids, just randomly forgot. It happens. Then in 30 days after June 20th, if you have not gone in, it's going to auto complete those for you. Now it's going to put a narrative that says system generated. Now my state AMI and OMI people who are on here, we can actually update that reason to say something other than this. So I'm going to be getting with y'all very soon to see what y'all want to put here. But I think that will help y'all as well, because it will get them completed out so that we don't have to do those phone calls at the end of the season. But again, this only applies to interventions that you all have created since the update went in. So, piece of advice for you. If you hadn't put your kids in the interventions yet, or even if you have, you can take them out and put them back in. If you want to get rid of any intervention you created last week to take advantage of this feature and recreate it this week, y'all can do it. There's some ways to kind of mass move those kids around so that you can take advantage of this auto completion feature. So just make that decision as a district whether you want to or not. Completely up to you. But love this feature as well. It's still not one of my top 2. The attendance and something else I'm going to show you, but this right here, will do. And it will, because I just see Carol's question, which I will answer. It will even auto-complete those who have withdrawn, because y'all know that y'all get that error message, and she's asking, how do we complete an older intervention that includes a student who is withdrawn? So the only people who can see the students once they are withdrawn from CIS are the people in Analytics and Insights who have the MTSS Global Administrator access. It's probably somebody at central office, or district office, that has that access. So you would have to ask them to go in because they're the only ones who can see those kids still listed, and they can complete that intervention out for you. So you're going to need to talk to district office to get them, because it is best practice, if you know a kid is withdrawing, that you end them in here first and complete before you process that withdrawal in SIS, or else you get stuck in that like gray area. However, moving forward, if a kid withdraws in SIS, and we all know we have that, we're going to have summer withdrawals this summer. You're going to have a kid in read camp, in math camp, who is going to withdraw to go to another district, but they're going to finish out the camp with you. They'll autocomplete after 30 days. So you can let them do that as well. I feel you. I know exactly what's happening in those schools. All right, here's another update. They have introduced a new role. So if any of my system admins are on here, remember there are check boxes that you have to check over in the SIS that give your people access to the different parts of Analytics and Insights. There's the UIHN roles that give them the dashboard views. There's the student plan roles that give them the student plan views. And then there's the interventions roles that give them access to interventions. Well, in the last update, they introduced the new student plan viewer, because some of y'all were like, hey, Stacy, we have some people that, yeah, we need them to be able to see the student plan, but they don't need that pencil to be able to edit that student plan. Okay. Well, we introduced that student plan viewer role so that you could assign that appropriately. Well, the converse of that is we also need it over here in the interventions, and they've now delivered on that role. So inside of everybody's SIS, in these user roles, there is now a new checkbox where if you need somebody to be able to see interventions, even print interventions, but not add, edit, delete, or anything else, you can assign this intervention viewer role, or check it as a box under one of the roles they have assigned, so that they can view interventions on students but not be able to change any data on them. So that was really the one piece that was missing in all of our security, where we wanted people to be able to what somebody said, I want them to touch it but not feel it. So now you can touch it but not feel it with that viewer role. So talk with your district power school people to see if y'all need to adjust security on anybody so that they're not able to edit any of these if you don't need them to. Now, my state users on here. So I saw Misty and I saw a couple more from ARI and OMI popping on here. This is for us at the state level. When we go into interventions and go to all interventions, well, one, it used to be that we couldn't see anything that any district had created because there were so many of them. So they introduced a filter. So now when we go in at the state level, we can filter over here to whatever district. So if I need to pop into XYZ district and see all of theirs, we now will be able to see that without having to impersonate and go through the back doors that we've had to in the past to see the interventions and how many kids they have enrolled. So for my state level viewers, we now have this drop down where you can filter and look at one district at a time on the all interventions page. Now, other things for interventions, just little things. They made a lot of changes. Some of them are just very little things. So here are some. You can now delete interventions that have related data. Now, that could be kind of scary, but this is important because how many of y'all, and I know it happened, it's okay. It's okay because we were able to undo it. How many of y'all created a fake intervention last year and put a kid in there and played with it so that y'all could figure it out? And then when you realized you had to delete it because it was counting in your state data, you had to go in and find all those dates and delete it and all that. Yep, we know, and it's okay. It's okay. Well, now, if you decide to do that and you know you're going to need it deleted out before state reporting, you can now, a global admin, so that person who I said who has MTSS global rights that can do that withdrawn student completion I talked about a minute ago, those people can go in and actually delete an intervention even if all the data is in there and it'll erase it all. Now, that is good and that can be scary. And as a checks and balance, because some of y'all are like, so you mean somebody can just go in and wipe out all of our data? Yeah, they can. However, there is a screen that's going to pop up in their face when they press this delete button that goes, are you sure? If so, you must type the word delete in this box to actually delete the data. That way there is no accidental delete. If you are deleting it, you know you're deleting it for a reason. And so there shouldn't be any surprises with that, because we know that people are wanting to do some, kind of fake data in there and be able to get rid of it and it not harm anything. Or some of y'all created an intervention and you just wanted to delete the intervention and then spin up a new one because you wanted to separate it out or something. That kind of stuff can be done now. They enhance some of the pagination for it just so that you can display more kids. It used to be where you could only look at 15 at a time. Now you can choose whether you want to look at it 15, 30, or 50 at a time. So just some visual cosmetic stuff. Made some improvements on the notes navigation. So you're going to see it tweaked just slightly, not enough to even show you anything. Improved performance on the intervention listing page. So the responsiveness, I know that we're not seeing that right now because they're working on our overall performance issues, because no matter how much I tried to prep them about how many people were going to be in this program this time of year in Alabama, it still shocked them. And so that's what they're having to scramble for right now, and they're working on. And now you can no longer add inactive students to intervention. So if a student has been withdrawn from your district, you cannot add them to an intervention at all. Couple of more things. They have merged, when you look in the filterable fields, like drilling down into different interventions, or some of the intervention dashboards, they have merged the student name and student ID filters into a single student name or ID filter, so you can search both within that one filter. And now some of y'all had alerted us to this right here, but they did it as a feature release instead of a bug fix, which I think it was a bug, but whatever. You can now print all replies along with the notes that have been added to an intervention, because some of y'all had emailed and let me know that, hey, you could print the notes, but not all the replies were coming, and sometimes not all the notes would come. So this is a feature enhancement. I'm calling it a bug fix because I think they should have printed the whole time. So that should be good now. They've updated options to delete the interventions. The user can now only delete an intervention from the Manage Intervention page, so that delete button has slightly moved. And they have updated the schedule column on the All Interventions page to display the start and end dates for both scheduled and untimed interventions. So you can see that as both. Now, if you're a district manager, which most of your district folks are, that doesn't apply to you, so don't worry about that. They've updated some of the logic, just some RLS bypass. Doesn't even have anything to do with how our data comes and flows from the warehouse into here. Now, one update that they did make that could impact some of my larger districts. So I'm talking my Baldwins, my Montgomerys, my Jeffersons, who tend to want to create huge interventions and like dump everybody in there. They have had to put a limit on the interventions and how many students and how many staff you can put in an intervention. So an intervention can max have 500 students added and 100 staff. If you try to add more than that, you will get an error on them. So if you know that you're going to have more than 500, you're going to need to somehow split them up into two separate interventions to maintain in there, which is why we kind of did all of the reporting stuff disseminated with that category and subcategory type, so that y'all wouldn't have to dump everybody in one with the same name. So that if you need to say K3 summer reading intervention for XYZ school, and then a K3 summer reading intervention for this school and for that school, y'all can now separate those out, naming them how you need to separate them out for the users, and it not cause any issues with our legislative reporting and how it feeds to the dashboards. Couple of improvements just to how the system messages. They now are going to be in different colors. So if it's a severe, it's going to be red, important, yellow, and orange. And if everything is good, it is green. One thing I do want to call out, please make sure when you are working on your student plans that I know it auto saves, but you still need to wait for that little flag to pop up on the screen that says changes saved to actually, before you click off of that page, because I've seen some people who they'll enter in the data, they won't wait on that changes saved flag to show up there, and they just click out of the plan, and then the next day they go, my plan's been deleted. No, it wasn't deleted, it never saved, you clicked it too quick. And so please make sure that you're cognizant of that so that all data stays when you're typing it in. Couple of things more, just bug fixes here that they were able to correct. And that's it to the interventions. So our last piece is taking a look at the updates to the student plan. So remember I said there were two big things I was excited about. One of them was that attendance in the interventions. The other one is a feature inside of the student plans. So let's get on to them, and it's this one right here. You are now going to have the ability to bulk export the parts and pieces of your student plans in your district. Now, before you can do this, me and my group here, there's some buttons that we've got to go click. But basically, as we have built out the templates for the SRIP, for the portfolio, for the PST, I've got to go into each one of the areas and click this little box that says this is an exportable piece of this plan. I plan on getting this done this week. Once I get all these little check boxes checked, then you will be able to go into your student plan. So here, like on the student plan page where you typically see all your kids listed, there's going to be this button that says export to CSV. Once you click that button, it's going to pop this little box up right here to say which sections of these plans do you want to print. So think about when you're going through the PST form, all of the different, parent this, update this, assessment this, weaknesses this. You will be able to choose all of these, and I'm going to name them whatever they are in those plans, whatever those sections are, so it'll be intuitive to you. You'll check which one of these boxes you want, hit export, and it will give you a full-blown spreadsheet of your entire school or district if you want to see how many kids did I mark XYZ inside of a PST, or how many kids did I mark XYZ or put this data in for my SRIPs, because I know some of y'all have asked for things like that, being able to pull the data specifically out of those individual pieces of the SRIP or out of the PST or the portfolio. This is going to allow you to do that, and then y'all can slice and dice that data however you want. This little step right here also makes it where we will be able to slice and dice some more and different and possibly better dashboards of student data out of these plans. So I'm hoping to be able to get some more dashboards in front of y'all because of this change right here, because it's indexing things differently for us. A new functionality that they added is that we now have a status that you can place on a student plan. You can do it as a pending plan, an active plan, an overdue plan, or a completed plan. There will also be a way to update statuses, so I can take an active plan and move it to completed. And maybe once I've completed a plan, I realize, oh no, I forgot to do this. You can reactivate the plan so that you can go in, make your changes, and then complete the plans on students if needed. And so here are the screenshots. You will now have filters up here for those different plan statuses, and you will be able to see them over here in this and filter in the column as well. And so when you're in the student plan, you will know what status that plan is in based on your designation, whether it's complete. And if you have completed a plan, you will have this reactivate plan option that you'll be able to do to get it where you can edit it once again. Because I know at the end of the year last year, there were some plans that had been completed but were missing some stuff. And so people had to go in and kind of jump through some hoops to get it back going so that you could make those edits and then complete the plans again for those who were finished out, who had become proficient or whatever. So Jennifer, it's kind of markings inside of there, and we'll get you a complete tutorial on going through those. Currently, our completed plans that we did by changing the end dates have moved to overdue. Do we need to go complete those? I believe, Chris, if you're still working on it, that you just leave those. Did you change the end date to a future date? Because I don't think those should be overdue anymore. If so, shoot me an email about that, Christy, and we'll take a look at it. Here's another feature that is going into here that we at the state need to talk about, because this might help you with some of your document uploading. There is a new component that we can add to our templates now called an image carousel. So if we have, so for example, if you've got some evidence that you need to put in the SRIP or in the portfolio, if you save it as a PNG or a JPEG, even a GIF file, if you save it as those, we can put a carousel up there for you to load those to so that we don't have to do the linkings and it will show it as an actual image. So when you have the evidence, I know a lot of times y'all save them as PDFs, but do y'all know how to save a PDF as a JPEG file? You can then take that JPEG file and load it to here and not have to worry with all that linking inside those plans that people are doing. So this is going to be an option that we'll talk about here at the state level to see if we want to push this in, which I'll also say you can do that currently in the text area of those where you're kind of pasting that link. There is an image icon now that you could use to put those in there if you want to save those PDFs in those links as images and just upload directly. This just shows it a different way. So we'll have conversations about this and let you know whether we'll be pushing that in or not. Kevin, if we've already created our interventions for the summer, will they be limited to 500 or less? So Kevin, that's only for what you create after the update. If you've already got a plan that has 500 kids in there, if you try to add another kid, it's going to give an error. Okay. So yeah, you're good. It's not going to like kick those kids out or anything because we do have some historical ones from previous years that even, and I asked that question specifically, and it just means if you tried to add another kid, you would get an error at this point. And guys and gals, that is the end of all of the updates that are coming. So it wasn't as big of an update as the one we had in November that had lots of new things, but I will tell you the couple of things that I really like, that exportable one and that attendance one is really going to help y'all. And I do know that they are still working on more enhancements to this. They are not finished. They are listening to our feedback and making those adjustments. So be on the lookout for any new news and anything that will be changing or update from our side, because we definitely appreciate you all, what you do for this and the team. And I'm linking again our Alabama Power School website, the Unified Insights page, so that if you need to have any of the videos, anything about permissions, how to do a student plan, how to do a student group, how to do anything with interventions. We have all those videos on here that you can always point to help you through this summer. So I'm going to stop the recording real quick.